I really appreciate something you just said, Moses. You said numbers are great, but sometimes family and family members get lost in the numbers. And I think that is huge across businesses, across the world. We can be so driven by the bottom line that we miss what we were created for, which is to live in community. We would solve a lot of problems in the world if we would just have that approach. So I'm going to give you a little bit of my background before I sort of dive into the presentation, because I'm not that smart, but my background has led to some pretty cool things. I come from nothing up in Northeast Texas, ended up at A&M, God's University, graduated there. I had a full ride to Harvard Law somehow or another. So I was going to go work for 2 years in Houston in consulting. And my first year of doing consulting, I get recruited by the second largest church in America to go on staff. And my life took a bit of a turn at that point. So my background has been serving at really large churches as a pastor, and then enter breaks in between there of being involved in the business world and doing consulting for nonprofits and churches. And so it's sort of an interesting resume if we were to lay it out, and it's led to some really neat things. And so in 2019, I decided I was done with being a vocational pastor, drawing a paycheck to serve on staff at a church. And I left and I went and joined another company in the wealth management world, which is what my background was on the business side a lot, because we wanted to say, hey, how can we what would it like to disrupt the wealth management world internally and externally? And out of that began to emerge this real passion for how do we release kingdom assets for kingdom purposes? How do we begin to change this concept? And it's been sort of a growing movement. You hear around this building all the time, marketplace ministry or these different kind of things. But how do we do it so it's not this cheesy tool that people can try to use to put your cross on your business card as if the cross means that your character matches up with the cross, and people will manipulate that. How do we do it from a very real standpoint? So I was with that company until June of this past year, and left there because we began to have this vision of what if we could create a platform? What if we could create a one-stop place for people to get best in practice sort of array of services around not just investments and wealth management, but around tax services and estate planning and the structuring of charitable giving. Here's a shocker for you. I can't believe these words are about to come out of my mouth. The IRS is actually really, really generous to people who themselves are really, really generous. So there's ways to build tax strategies around generosity and these things, but we wanted to do it in a comprehensive manner. And so I left, I started my own firm. In fact, if you walk by the office over there, it says Legatum Group on it. And we were running and gunning a whole 3 months into running and gunning. I'd partnered with an organization called One Ascent out of Birmingham, Alabama. They were running a lot of the back office and back office support for us. They're a large national firm. I was an independent advisor working with them, and I was going to go build this out, working with a lot of nonprofits and doing this stuff. And right at 2 months in, I got a call from their CEO, and he said, hey, we really think you should come over here and merge with us, and we want to have you lead our efforts around charitable giving and generosity from an investment standpoint. We're sort of playing with this idea of, is there any way to create this platform? And I'm just like, wait, you're using words that I've been dreaming about. And then he gives the kicker. He says, have you ever heard of Excellence in Giving and Al Mueller? I'm like, of course. Al Mueller has a group called Excellence Giving 25 years ago. They are the premier philanthropic advisory firm in North America. They work with high net worth and ultra high net worth families to run all their charitable giving for them. They go in and evaluate nonprofits at a very deep level to make sure that people don't realize there's a lot of well-known organizations. We don't have any to name any of them, but for example, one of them might have a color in a Christian symbol as their name. But you give to them, and 96 cents of every dollar you're giving are going to overhead. So they do a lot of evaluation of nonprofits. He goes, I said, yeah, of course I know them. He goes, well, we're about to purchase them. And I got really quiet because on my diagram I drawn 5 years ago, I had Excellence in Giving as a strategic partner in building out this platform. And so I'll share a little bit about what I'm doing now. So I merged my wealth management practice into the One Ascent family of companies and into the One Ascent family office sort of side of things. And we have started this thing of bringing pieces together to really go, how do we provide comprehensive solutions that lead to faith-based impact and that are comprehensive planning for people. And so we sort of say we do three things. We mobilize family alignment, we manage wealth, and then we help people maximize their impact. So in the mobilize family alignment sort of piece there, we have brought in some of the top people. I mean, they've put their money where their mouth is. If you're familiar with Halftime, Bob Buford's group, that is out of Dallas. And they brought in two of the former CEOs that are now on our team that go in and work with families and go, hey, there seems to be some generational issues going on, maybe some spousal issues going on. Here's another kicker for you. Money does not cause problems. I know people think it sometimes does. And you always hear the response of, well, yeah, it doesn't, but the lack of money does. And there may be some truth to that. But what money actually does is it highlights problems that already exist. If you want to play around with drugs, but you don't have any money, it really takes a lot of effort to get hooked. But if you have access to money, then you have access to drugs, whatever these situations are. So these families, we have some guys that go in and we do in-depth family generational planning. One of the largest questions we get from high net worth and ultra high net worth clients is, how do I leave this money to my kids and not ruin them? It's a real concern. And we are in the first year, well, we just finished the first year of the greatest transfer of wealth in world history that will go on for the next 17 years. So you have the greatest transfer of wealth ever happening, and you have patriarchs and family people who are going, how do I leave this money to my kids and it not ruin them? So we dive into those kind of things. There's a lot of family counseling, a lot of process around this. How do you love your kids equally but treat them differently in your estate planning? How do you give your kids the gift of the struggle? Amen. We see a whole generation that wasn't given the gift of the struggle. How do we give them the gift of the struggle? And doing all that process around, getting clarity and alignment. So here are just some questions. I won't read all these through these. This is a sample gap analysis that we do with people. And then the second thing that we do is that we manage wealth. And we manage wealth. We think we're really good. Here's a little clue for you, though, that most people don't like to talk about. When it comes to investment management, for the most part, it's a commodity. You're either A level, B level, or C level. If you do the comparison analysis between different investment firms and companies, you're talking fractional percentages of a point quite often in their performance numbers, if they're in the A level, the B level, the C level. So how do you enhance those things? So we do a couple things that are unique. We're one of the few firms in the nation that offers both exposure to private equity and public equity. So most people, when they think about their financial planning, they're thinking about the stock market. So it wasn't a good week for them last week. And let me just tell you, for those of us who deal with people like that, it was an even worse week because it stunk, right? The market crashes down. You're having to deal with all the anxiety. But we also offer private equity solutions that are well vetted. We offer private equity portfolios to people who are not accredited investors. Normally, to be invested in private equity, you have to have $1 million in net worth. We have tools that we can expose people to private equity without having to do that. And you'll see some of the advantages of that here in just a minute. And we also do values-based investing. We're the national leader in values-based investing. We run 33 portfolios around values. Do your values align with your investments? In other words, imagine right now you got $1 million. Just sit in that for a minute. That'd be nice, right? Got $1 million and you want to invest it. Well, have you ever thought, are the things you're investing in aligning with who you are? Are you investing in things that are antithetical to your values? We had a client that was very generous, and their number one cause, and I'm not making a statement, you don't have to agree with this, but it just illustrates the point, though I would agree with this client. This client's number one cause that they gave to were pro-life causes. They gave lots of money every year to pro-life causes. We got a chance to evaluate their portfolio, and their number one investment that they were making money off of was the number one contributor to pro-choice causes. So here's somebody whose number one value is pro-life, who's making money off of something else. So we can go in and we can help people align their values with their investments. We can screen certain kinds of things out of their portfolios. And we run 33. We also do other regular investment things as well. And then we can go the next step and help people maximize their legacy and their impact. So we can do structured charitable planning, pre-sale gifts. You're in the real estate world and in the mortgage world. When people are selling a piece of property, if they're not going to do a 1031 exchange, they're going to have exposure to capital gains. But if there's someone who's generous, we can go in before they sign the contract. They can actually give a portion of that property into an entity, be it a foundation, a donor advised fund, something of that nature. They don't pay any capital gains on that. We can save them a ton of tax dollars. We do the same thing when people are selling companies. I did a sell for a guy a couple of years ago. His share was $10 million on the sale of his company. He wanted to tithe off of it or give 10%. If he had done that after taxes, he would have walked away with about $6 million. We got involved before they did it. He ended up being able to give $2 million to charity. And he actually gets to give it away for the rest of his life. And it only changed his take-home dollars by about $180,000. So for $180,000 out of his pocket, he had $1 million that he could give away. So we do a lot of things around helping people maximize their legacy and impact, including even identifying what are the areas that you want to give to. Business owners, we deal with it all the time. We get requests for donations constantly, right? Sometimes you can just get temptation, just write the check, like write the $200 check, but it doesn't align with what you're passionate about. So we help families go through a process of identifying what are the 3 or 4 areas that your heart is inclined to impact greatly, and then say no to everything else. And let's isolate your dollars. Let's find the best nonprofits and things that are out there to do that. So this just shows a little bit of what we can do in this makeup. We can mobilize family, manage wealth. We also brought in some stud guys here. We brought in a guy named Phil Schaefer. He's been regarded, faith-based or not, as one of the top 10 institutional investment managers on Wall Street. He's a part of our team now. So we can run foundation dollars and foundation monies. And then, of course, the excellence in giving piece. We have strategic alliances with groups that we don't own. So we don't own the whole platform necessarily. But I have a large client that wanted to be more strategic with their charitable stuff. They needed a foundation. They didn't have a foundation. Had they gone to a local lawyer and created a foundation, it was going to cost them about $50,000 based on the size of their foundation to set up the foundation. And then they would have to hire someone to administer it and do the tax reporting and do all of that. Through our strategic alliances, we got the whole thing done for them for about $35,000 a year. That organization handles all their grant access, does everything for them. So we wanted to put this where it all operates in one place. Won't bore you with all the details, but basically it's a one-stop shop for anything that touches your money, and we can align it with your values. And this is some of the experts. I want to focus on this part here because I'm going to turn it over to Paul here in just a second. I've known Paul for a long time. We've journeyed together through life for a long, long time. And Paul runs a private equity real estate group. But when I mentioned earlier that most people only have exposure to public equities and public debts, but private equity is really important. A lot of times people are scared of that. And I just want to show you this because it sort of illustrates why it's so unique to have a company that can do both of those for you. So basically what this shows you here, you'll see arrows up and to the left, is you have return going up and you have risk going left to right. And regardless of where your risk tolerance target portfolio is, the research shows us that by beginning to add some private equity alternate exposure, performance goes up and risk goes down. Now, does that not make sense that that's what you would want to do? And I'm going to let Paul take over here and tell you about what he does, because you'll see why that happens. You hear all the time in the investment world, diversification is what matters. Our real goal, my real passion, is to help people not stress over money, but be blessed by money. Your money will either bless you or it will stress you. And so how do we get people to take the things that they've been given, to steward them well, to have as much impact and leave a legacy, not just a bank account? Your legacy needs to be more than just dollars and cents. We want to look at your financial capital, your relational capital, your spiritual capital, your intellectual capital, and your character capital, and bring those into the equation. So we want to absolutely help you maximize returns. We also want to help you distribute that really well.